Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. I don't know why I got a giggle in there like that. That was a real awkward start just right out of the gate. Now, let's try this again. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to it. And then I have a weird, kind of grossy cough. Give me just a second
here. You
here.
want to restart?
No, I don't want to restart.
Okay.
Just leave all the grossness in. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to
another
episode.
Well, if we had new listeners, they're gone.
They're all gone. It's another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name's JD. Who's here with me?
It's Michelle.
And only Michelle, because, again, everybody else is already gone. I don't know how it's possible, but listening back to some of our oldest episodes in preparation for the Spooktober coming up, I definitely want people to keep in mind that a lot of these were recorded way back when we were still very new to this. But the one thing I can say for sure is, man, we have gotten so much worse at starting a podcast.
I was thinking about that. They used to be so much quicker.
Our
episodes were very much like, hello, welcome. Here's our spoiler-free thoughts. Here are our not spoiler-free thoughts.
Right?
Okay, bye. And 15 minutes. And now we're like minute and a half into it, just being like,
even tell people what the movie's called.
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
Well,
this would also be a good point to let everybody know that I have been drinking. So
Michelle's had a little bit of a work party night because JD had to watch the movie super late. Full disclosure, it's literally 11 p.m. Central Standard Time where we live. On September 22nd. This is going to finish recording and go up about 5 minutes later. So
I watched this movie 12 hours and 3 Moscow mules ago. So if you don't like my rating.
The movie. It's
I
be
don't
real,
remember very much about it.
This could go, well, it can't go too long because I still got to edit it and get it put up by midnight.
We should probably get to it then.
This might also be, frankly, look, I don't want to spoil too much, but this opening might be the most interesting part of this episode. What's the movie we're talking about, Michelle?
It's called Raven's Hollow.
It is called Raven's Hollow.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do is, because Michelle's had a few barley pops or whatever those cocktails were that she talked about.
So good. They were pomegranate. Dangerous.
The Denmark donkey or whatever it was. I'm going to read.
Tijuana show.
What?
Donkey shows in Tijuana. Is that still a thing?
No.
That was the thing that was on like all the sitcoms in the 90s, and I've never heard of it.
Michelle, we can't get off on Tijuana donkey shows right now. That's for later. We have to.
Okay.
First,
we'll talk about this movie. Oh my God, this is a very long description. Thank you so much for taking one for the
exactly.
team.
That's why I was like, well, Michelle is definitely not going to want to read through this one.
Yeah.
So,
nope,
like we
do.
Not. I suppose you guys at this point must understand that what we do on We Watch Shudder is exactly what the name says, so I'm not even going to go through that whole explanation. What we do also do is we read the descriptions of the movie from the website. I feel all of a sudden like I'm sort of like through osmosis or sympathetically getting drunk through the internet because of you. How many drinks did you have? Jesus.
Okay, so at least 3 that I know of.
we got to talk about this movie. Raven's Hollow. This is the description straight from the Shudder website. Autumn 1830. West Point military cadet Edgar Allan Poe. Yes, Edgar Allan Poe. And 4 other cadets on a training exercise in upstate New York come upon a man eviscerated on a bizarre wooden rack. His dying words direct them to a forgotten community, which they believe is guarding sinister secrets. Enthralled by the innkeeper's beautiful and mysterious daughter Charlotte, and fueled by the town residents' refusal to speak to the murder, Poe determines to uncover the truth. Risking his life and more, Poe ultimately comes face to face with the terrifying creature that will haunt him forever. A Shudder original. Michelle!
Yeah.
Hit us with your spoiler-free thoughts on Raven's Hollow.
Okay, so I don't know a lot about Edgar Allan Poe or his work. I know that at some point there was a heart under the floor in his house and he didn't like that, but that's pretty much where the extent of my knowledge ends. And I didn't like his stuff as a kid. I preferred Stephen King and Richard Lehman when I was like 10 years old, which is way too young to be reading that. Anyway, I don't know if maybe I missed something because I didn't know much about Edgar Allan Poe. It feels like maybe there was some stuff in here that was an homage to him, but I don't know. Maybe there's something I missed, maybe not, but I didn't really like it for at least an hour. Then there was some better stuff that happened, but it still wasn't great. So, my telltale heart says that I have to give this one a 2.
2 skulls from Michelle on the spoiler-free thoughts. Well,
Yep.
Let me drop it to you from this perspective, Michelle. I do know a thing or two about Edgar Allan Poe, and this movie is chock to the gills full of references to Edgar Allan Poe to the extent that for the first half hour of the movie, I was just kind of bored. And then for the next half hour of the movie, because of all the references to Edgar Allan Poe stuff they were throwing in, it was just kind of hokey. And then for the last half hour, it got, forgive me, real dumb. Or at least real not the kind of story I have any interest in whatsoever. And it just had this descending spiral of just like my opinion of it got smaller and smaller and smaller. There are a couple of moments in the movie that I have some decent respect for. There's a couple of really great set pieces that we'll talk about when we get into the spoilers. But overall, this was very like Sci-Fi Channel October movie of the week kind of thing to me. I'm gonna give it like I don't know, skull and a half.
So 1.5 skulls?
Yes, a skull and a half.
So 1 full skull and then a half a skull.
Right.
Retrieved from somewhere, which gives it an average of 1.75 skulls out of 5.
Yeah.
Rave reviews. Should we get into the not spoilery?
The
spoilery part.
Yeah, we're going to get into some spoiler discussion here of the movie. Yeah. We're just going to talk about exactly what. So if you want to see the movie before we do that, make sure you come back after you do. But this is where you're going to want to pause this episode if you want to go watch the movie now before the spoilers, right? Now. All right, Michelle, let's get into it and talk about Raven's Hollow. I'm curious to hear first, because again, I definitely thought that a person's ability to enjoy this movie was going to be very deeply rooted in how familiar they are with Edgar Allan Poe. And so I kind of had a theory that the less somebody knew, the more they would be able to enjoy it. And it seems like that was kind of the case. Like, you certainly enjoyed it technically more than I did, but also we know that just as a general rule, your ratings tend to average about a half a skull higher than mine overall across the board. So basically, we kind of landed in the same spot on this, and my theory was completely false. Tell me why this movie didn't work for you as somebody who doesn't know a damn thing about Poe, and then I'll tell you why it didn't work for me as somebody who certainly not an expert, but has read some things.
This, to start with, is just not the type of horror that I really love. I'm not a big fan of gothic horror. I'm not a fan of slow horror. I'm not a fan of just like drawling story and nothing really happening. There were some big moments. I was very intrigued by the guy that they came across, who I think they refer to him as a scarecrow, but the guy who led them to this town. I was very intrigued by that. And I was very intrigued by the young girl in the very beginning of the movie. And those bigger moments were kind of fun, but in between all of that, I was waiting for the next big moment. And with the way that they delivered certain lines, like making a big point of certain people's names, I could tell that it must be important and a reference that people who are very familiar with Poe's work would understand.
Give me
And I
one
knew I was
example of a
missing
name
it.
like that you're talking about.
Usher.
Yes, absolutely an Edgar Allan Poe name. Give me another
Okay.
one.
See, Edgar Poe.
Well, yeah, Edgar Allan
Those
Poe
are-
literally has a story called The Fall of the House of Usher.
Oh,
It's,
okay,
yeah,
perfect.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was worried you were going to ask me more names because I immediately went, William Moseley, because he is not Bill Moseley,
Not
and
Bill
that did take
Moseley
me a
at all.
second.
Man, was I
I was like,
disappointed.
yeah,
No
I
offense,
know.
honestly, to William Moseley, because frankly,
No,
I think he
he's
does a
fine.
good job
Yeah.
in this movie.
I agree.
But I was like, man, Bill Moseley's going to be in this? And then, nope.
And
Okay,
he's being
I'm
more formal. Why is he William now?
Right.
But, yeah, it wasn't my kind of thing. And in between the moments, I was like, okay, this is nothing new, really. And so I was just kind of like, it took way too long to get to the point. I did find the ending much more exciting and better than I did the first part of the movie, which is usually the opposite with these kind of movies. Usually, they're disappointing and then they're even more disappointing. But this one was kind of disappointing, and then I really did like the buildup. I thought that was interesting. I thought the tie-in at the very end about this is how the Raven was a little hokey, but it was still like, okay, like you're living up to the gimmick. I get it, I guess, but it was just like unnecessary to throw in the scene outright saying like, look, this is where that story came from. I think it was very much implied even without knowing anything about it. So I didn't think that scene was necessary. Yeah, it didn't really speak to me. It was like fine acting. All the actors were fine. It was just nothing too exciting, and I don't feel like a better person having watched it. I would have much rather been drinking more Moscow mules.
You would have much rather been drinking more Moscow Mules at like 10
Yeah.
o'clock this morning?
Yeah, I watched this 12 hours ago, and I can tell you Moscow Mules probably would have made it better. It was so reassuring to hear
That's
that you
fair.
also didn't like this movie,
Right.
because I was like, I watched it so long ago and I'm drunk. What if I'm really wrong?
Right. Well, and so here's the thing then. First of all, I agree with most of what you said there, but it's actually kind of amplified then from my end. That experience you had at the end of the movie where he's writing, he's sitting down and starts writing The Raven, and you were like, oh, this is a little hokey. I had that movie, or that experience, constantly throughout this movie, because this movie is chock full of mostly references to The Raven, and that the reason I asked about the names is there are two names in particular that jump out. One of them is Usher, and the other one is the fake twin sister, Lenore. Lenore is actually a name from the
Lenore
the poem.
Nevermore.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
from
okay.
The Raven. Yeah, that's a name from
Oh,
The
okay.
Raven. Yeah.
Okay.
But so, and there are also little bits of things that are allusions to other Edgar Allan Poe things entirely that are not The Raven. Again, like the character Usher. One of Poe's most well-known stories is The Fall of the House of Usher. The whole bit where there are multiple different references to the telltale heart, but it's never all one image
I
together.
definitely caught
do
a lot
have-
of those because
yeah.
that's the one that I was familiar with.
Yeah, you do have like just the the disembodied heart at one point.
Yep.
There's the scene where he's ripping up the planks in the floorboard.
Yep.
All of that. Even of course, even more of the Raven stuff when they go to see Clay's father, and there's just that repeated tapping of the cup. Repeated tapping is a motif from the
Oh.
Raven.
Okay.
Just all sorts of things like that. And I wasn't super bothered by it for, like I said, for the first chunk of it. It was a little too cutesy and a little bit too much for me, so I wasn't really able to get caught up in it. Also, I thought the first chunk of the movie was very slow.
Yeah.
And like
It was
just
boring.
dragged.
It was
and
just
dragged
boring.
And dragged. And then while they're developing the mystery in that middle section, I'm like, okay, It's still kind of hokey with all the references, but I'm curious to see where this all goes. I was starting to think that this was going to be a movie where if they had just left off the deliberate references to Edgar Allan Poe, I would have been able to enjoy it a whole lot more. That's where I started to go. There's one set piece in here especially that I think is the high point of the film, and that's when he finds that dude just eviscerated and splayed all over the church.
I agree.
Holy
that was where I went,
shit.
oh, maybe this movie will pick up.
Right.
And from there, it does pick up a little bit of speed,
Yeah.
but it does not keep that speed the entire
like
time.
that
That was the exact same moment that I felt like I woke up and I paused it and went back a little bit to be like, that came out of nowhere and I'm happy about it.
Yeah,
just to make sure, because I was like, was I asleep? That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just severe. And it definitely, it perked me up. I'm like, oh, whoa, okay, where is this headed? And then the problem is it gets that hokiness of the references throughout most of it. Like, I don't, clearly like, I don't know if you caught it, but in the scene where they're at the burial and Poe has drank the concoction and so that he can see the raven, and he sees that it's the mother, he starts saying all sorts of weird things to her. I don't know that they're word for word verbatim, but those are basically lines from the poem.
And so that's a weird thing that happened with this movie. So I believe I've heard the Raven poem before, which is it just called The Raven?
Talking about the night's Plutonian shore and things like that.
And see, that's the part that I don't remember at all, but I remember like Nevermore or Lenore, like that part of it. And just with the delivery of lines in this, it felt like they were giving you like a wink when they said them.
Yes.
So even though I'm not very familiar with Poe's work, I still caught on to some of these names sound like they are just like thrown in there, and the delivery of them was different to the point where even I, not being familiar with it, I knew she gave some like Nevermore lines, which clearly I made that connection.
There's
but
one
just
line
the
where
way
they just say Nevermore, and that's the only word they speak.
Exactly. And so I'm able to I was able to pick up on that, and I don't think that was a good direction where you delivered it so differently that like it was like a catch it, and I was able to even catch those moments despite not knowing the work that was being referenced, and that was weird. That was a weird experience.
Also, from that point forward, from the burial sequence forward, I'm not even entirely certain that I understand everything that happened from that point forward in the movie. Like, there's some sort of like weird, like they had hints of a mild like love interest along the way, but it didn't seem like it was a major part of the plot. And then all of a sudden it's like crucial to everything. And then the Raven flies off with the girl at one point. Does he kill her? Does he not kill her? What, like, also, frankly, the instant that creature, this is what frustrated the shit out of me a lot in this movie. They have so many good moments early on in the movie for a while where they give you these really fun and interesting and unique teases of the creature. And then it finally appears, and it's the most garbage, hokey, awful fucking, like, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm being so mean, and I should say I didn't appreciate the design and look of that creature. I thought it looked absurd. It took me any level of anything that I had, which was minimal to begin with. It removed all of that completely. And then, like I said, it becomes this weird love story very quickly for like 15 minutes, and I'm not sure I understand it. And then like Usher just goes crazy for some reason. And it's entirely possible that I also just lost the thread of the story because I just stopped really focusing. But yeah, the movie just kind of fell apart for me personally more and more as it went along. And I just, to the point where when they get to the end and they actually put the mustache and the wig on him to make him look like the well-known portrait of Edgar Allan Poe, I was just like, was this movie like? Have I been mistakenly taken this as a serious attempt at a gothic horror film this entire time, and it was deliberately meant to be like an Abraham Lincoln versus zombies B-level horror shtick comedy? I don't know. But
I didn't get comedic vibes from it
that's the
at
thing.
all. I think it was trying to be serious.
But it was also, like you said, there was so much like wink nudge in it as well. Yeah. So like, yeah, I just I didn't connect with it on any level. It's please forgive me if I came across as insulting. I should try to be very specific. And that it's just because, again, I say that with genuine seriousness, because as you said earlier, like, nobody who worked on this movie did a bad job. Like, the acting is good. Well, the guy who made the creature design probably could have used a few extra bucks in his budget, but that's my guess, is it wasn't his fault. It was a budget thing, so whatever. If that was the issue, you should have just found a way to not have that actually show us the creature to begin with and just made it weird. But so like everybody, it just the script just didn't work for me on any level, not on a story level, not on a detail level, not on a dialogue level. I just didn't connect with it at all.
Yeah, I have a very I think it's a pretty standard reaction to horror movies that when they finally reveal the monster, it's never as good as when you don't see it for the whole movie. And I wish they would just solve that. Like, that's
right.
Just so many horror movies, that's an issue, and it's 2022.
Yeah.
Why are you still showing us the creature if you're not going to deliver? And it drives me crazy.
They gave us so many good teases. That's one of my, again, I mentioned there's a few set pieces in this that I really liked. There's one of the visual teases in particular where the person is walking through the woods and you see you're looking from behind him, so his back is in the center of the frame, but there's like a flock of ravens that sort of coalesces together, and you just see the wings of the giant creature spread out in front of him, and his body is blocking the rest of it. I loved that. I also thought for a minute, I was like, whoa, is this going to suddenly become a weird vampire thing out of nowhere? Because of that motif of, like, it was very similar to the bats coalescing, and they looked like vampire wings for a moment. But, so like that, there's a weird moment in the film where one of the soldiers runs off into the woods, and he comes into this foggy glade where there's these weird, like, rotting, broken down trees that appear to have like writhing corpses inside them that doesn't seem to apply to anything else in the film at all. And I do find myself wondering if maybe that is some kind of Poe reference that I'm forgetting or missing, because it seems so deliberate, but it goes to nothing, right? But I thought that bit was cool. There are moments in this where I was like, man, if they had just had a better script to work with, this could have been, even with all of the allusions to Poe and his work, this could have been a much better movie. There is a much better movie here. This just isn't it.
The Raven communicating through that one guy, I found very eerie.
Yeah, that was another good bit.
Yeah, the way that the dialogue was being delivered, I really like that. There were so many, I mean, it's not even just like, oh, this one moment was good or there were two good moments. There are a lot of good moments individually in this movie. It is not a good movie with everything that it is combined. Right. But I would have liked to take those good moments and give them more.
I hate to put all the weight of something on one element, but really, it's another example of something we've run into before, where basically, at least so far as our enjoyment of it, the only person involved in this movie from top to bottom was the screenwriter. As it turns out, the movie was written by the guy who directed it. I forget his name off the top of my head.
Christopher Hatton.
Yeah, and then one other dude. And like, bro, you're a great director. Like, you made a beautiful movie to look at here. I don't know, maybe Maybe you gotta let somebody else help you out with your scripts or something. He's not gonna listen to this. If he does, someday we're gonna be famous and popular, and he's gonna come back and listen to this, and he's gonna be like, "Bro, what the fuck, man? That was a rude thing to." But no, it just that's where this all fell apart for me. Is there just wasn't anything for me to grasp onto with the story at all.
Now
Didn't
I'm just
work.
on this guy's IMDb page, and I do need to see Robotropolis, which has a 3.1 rating on IMDb.
Well, and yeah, because
the poster is beautiful.
I went and I did also look at his IMDb afterward to see what else he might have worked on, and I think that might be part of what gave me that brief idea of like, wait, was this supposed to be like more of like a campy gothic horror send up, and I just didn't catch it, or man, I don't know, but
I don't know.
I don't know
it
what
seems
else
like his
to-
other stuff is deliberately bad, and then this was his attempt at a good movie, and then he almost got it right.
Yeah, well, and
He needed like a team.
I
to sit around
probably
and
would
talk to
have
him.
been even a lot more forgiving of the unfortunate CG execution of the Raven creature if there had just been a little bit more book here, just a little bit more book.
Yeah, we
That's
needed,
the thing I'm going to start saying now. It's going to catch on when I
little
think
bit more book.
the story is the weak part of a production. It just need a little more book.
Yeah,
Just
a little more
book, man.
We
That's
need
all.
a little bit more.
Also, this could have been an hour. It didn't need to be an hour and a half.
I agree. It could have been 15 minutes just with the parts that I liked and nothing else, and I would have been confused, and I
Could
would
have
have been
been-
like, "Man, that guy likes opium," and that would have been the story.
Could have been 0 minutes, and then we wouldn't have had to watch it.
Oh man, then our show would be canceled.
I need to seriously talk to my therapist about the part of my brain that I have potentially permanently damaged with programming to just like mock and belittle things. It's I mean, I don't want to get too overly like pretentious about it and be like this, "Oh, you can't say something sucks" kind of person, but also like I very genuinely hope people understand at least that when I do say I thought it sucked, I'm really honestly just saying I didn't like it. It didn't work for me.
Okay, since we lost everybody else like a minute and a half into this, I have to say that I love that this has helped me vocalize what I do and do not
Right?
like about movies, because before I'd be like, that was awful and I'm mad about it, and I'm going to go rant on my blog that is not public. It is just for me.
Just
I went off on M. Night Shyamalan's Old because I was so pissed off about
while
it.
you were young. I don't know what that
You
has
should
to do
have
with anything.
written for this movie with a bunch of those nods to references. But I think it has really helped us both verbalize, and we're
for
like,
sure.
just in case
For
those
sure.
people do hear, after you upset the one director of the film we will not
Wow.
name, that they might hear our feedback. It is possible, but like we do want to, try to be constructive.
To be fair, I don't think I upset him that much.
I like to think that guy went to bed that night and went like, can't believe you only gave me a
2.5 skulls. Like, dude, I told you that I still said people should see the movie. Isn't that enough? Apparently not.
You're
Anyway,
keeping each other up
guys,
at night thinking about it.
Plenty of things we've said now about Raven's Hollow. Some other things we need to tell you about. Is it this weekend, Michelle, right away, like 2 days away, that we do the Anime Fargo thing?
Yeah, I'm working on a PowerPoint.
Awesome. Let me know if you need any help with that. If you are in
You
the Fargo
helped a
Moorhead,
lot. I just have to do it.
Right
It's
on.
mostly done.
So yeah, if you are in the Fargo Moorhead area, we're gonna be live at Anime Fargo on Saturday night. What time Saturday night?
10:30.
10:30. I don't think you can just come to that show. You're gonna have to get a day pass, but it'd be worth it to
But
get
they're
a day pass.
super cheap. Get a day
Yeah,
pass. Go
get a
check
day
out
pass,
the vendor
come check
room,
out Anime Fargo.
and then come hang out with us.
Right,
And then
for sure. And
yeah,
then
just hang
next
out.
weekend, Michelle is going to be
Yeah.
doing some burlesque performing out at ValleyCon
I
as part of a
am.
big thing going on there. There's
Back
also,
to back convention.
right, and Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy the Mail Girl are going to be in town as part
and
of
Bill
that.
Mosley, the real
and Bill
one.
Mosley, and we're basically going to try to, bum rush the convention with Michelle's little portable recorder there and try to talk to some people and maybe give them a We Watch Shudder t-shirt. Side note, by the way, if you want a We Watch Shudder t-shirt, too fucking bad. You had your opportunity. They're already ordered. It's too late. We might get some more in the future, but man, you missed out on the first wave, and that's on you. But don't be sad. You'll get another chance someday down the road. I'm going to guilt trip all of you who dropped the ball. Nah, we got some t-shirts coming. It's going to be pretty cool. We do have some extras coming, though, and we should try to give them to the famous people is all I'm saying, Michelle.
They won't be here by then, but maybe they'll give us their
They're
address.
They're not going to be here by next weekend.
No, they'll be here by October 4th.
Did it say on October 4th or by October 4th?
I'm sure everybody is very interested in the logistics of this, but it did say
okay, you're right. This is a
estimated
conversation
delivery
we can have
October 4th.
Sorry, guys. I totally forgot. This is how fun it is to record this podcast with Michelle, is I totally forgot I was recording a podcast with Michelle. I thought we were just having a chat.
This movie, suddenly there's going to be just like a flayed person behind me. You're going to be like, holy shit, did I fall asleep? Oh, man, the podcast is still happening.
Right.
Also, I would like to put in a petition that we are no longer We Watch Shudder. We are now Therapy Thursday. Because we just start getting really deep into our heads. I'm
real.
Drink before every episode, and there will be a lot more crying in the future. You're going to feel bad for insulting fictional people or real ones who will never know your opinions. I think this is a much better direction for us to move.
Fine.
I'll get stickers made with our crazy faces, but instead of We Watch Shudder, it'll say Therapy Thursday.
It'll be our third best-selling shirt after the original of the Dead Designs art, and number 2 will be the squelching shirt. I'm
gonna get a squelching shirt. I'm looking forward to it.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We made it to 32 minutes, and about 23 of it is about the movies. So I hope you enjoyed it. This is very, very slowly but surely becoming we talk about the movies, but I really hope you enjoy Michelle and JD podcast because there's a lot of them on it.
What if they listen because they like the movies, but they absolutely hate us, and they still tune in every Wednesday or Thursday, weekly? Okay. Yep.
Okay, Michelle, before we go, it just occurred to me there is one other thing I need to say really quickly right at the end of the episode here, because I almost forgot about it. But so we've had now, this is our 34th episode of We Watch Shudder, I believe, maybe 33rd.
Of publicly published ones, not counting
Well,
Spooktober.
right.
Spooktober starts next week, everybody.
Yeah, the Spooktober, a movie every day. We've talked about it. We'll talk about it more in the future.
Yeah, I'm not
what
getting
I
want
to talk about right now is, so we've been a slowly but surely growing podcast since we started back in March. And since that time, we've had some pretty decent successes, at least in our opinions, for what we expected with the activity on the show. But our most popular episode for the longest time has been the episode about Phil Tippett's Mad God, which we released back on June 17th. It has slowly worked its way up over time to about 93 total plays. And I'm willing to say that out loud. Yeah, our most popular episode is 93 total plays. And it took about 98 days for it to get there. But we're small and humble, and we're slowly on the grow. And I can say that because just in the last week, because of you awesome people listening to our podcast, our most recent episode for the Christian Tafdrup film Speak No Evil is now our most popular episode of all time because it had 96 plays in 6 days. And I don't know where you guys found it or how you found it, and I hope some of you found it for the first time and you're listening again. But I love and I'm so proud of what this little podcast of ours is doing and everybody who's helping us out along the way. We're on the grow, getting bigger all the time.
We are growers, not showers.
That's that's about the perfect tag to that. I don't think there's any other way to wrap
Good
it
night,
up.
Michelle.
Say good night, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.